before we begin this video, let's go to this worksheet that you guys have been doing, and let's explain. Which one did you want to see?
Yeah, 6.
Okay, let's look at number 6. So they want us to write the equation in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form, you need two things. You need an M and you need a B. So do they give you either of those? Yes, they give you the slope. Okay, and the slope is -3/2. So we have half of what we need. And now let's find the B value. Now, how are we going to find the B value? We're going to take what they give us. They give us an X and a Y, and they give us an M, and we're going to plug it all into Y equals MX plus B. Y equals MX plus B. And what we need to do is take the X value, plug it in right here where the X is at. We need to take the Y value, -5, plug it right here on this side of the equal sign. And we're going to take the M value of -3/2 and plug it in right here where the M is at, -3/2 right there. So once again, my Y value is -5, then I have the equal sign, then I have my slope, which is -3/2, and I need to multiply it by X, and X is 1, and then plus B. Plus B. So after we plug in everything, let's do the math. And this is pretty easy. -3/2 times 1 is -3/2. So what do I have left? I have a -5 equals -3/2 plus B. Now, if you get confused with the fractions, we could get rid of the fractions temporarily by multiplying everything by 2. That way the 2's cancel and there's no more fraction. So my new equation will be -10 equals -3 plus 2B. And then I want to add 3 to both sides to start solving for B. Add 3 here, add 3 over here. I'm going to have to rewrite my equation up here, what I have left. -10 plus 3 is -7 equals 2B. Yay? Final step would be to divide both sides by 2, and B equals
3 and 1/2.
You could leave it -7/2, or you could change to -3 and 1/2. I don't know. You need to understand that it could either be written as an improper or a mixed. Now that we have our M and our B, remember that was the whole starting point, that you need your M and you need your B. I'm going to leave it as -7/2. Now you could actually write your equation in slope-intercept form. So your equation in slope-intercept form will be Y equals -3/2 X minus 7/2. I think the back of the book might, or the back of the worksheet might have the answer as -3.5. Okay,
No,
but you, oh, -7/2. Okay, so that's it. That's how you do it. Now, is this easy?
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes easy once you practice it, but honestly, it requires a lot of work. Okay, now, this question originally said, write the equation in slope-intercept form, right? And slope-intercept form, the word form is the way it looks. And the way slope-intercept form is, it's Y equals MX plus B. Y equals MX plus B. Now, we've done standard form before. You guys remember standard form? Capital AX plus capital BY equals capital C. It's a different form. It's organized differently, right? So if I wanted to, I could tell you, I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but if I wanted to, I could tell you, take this slope-intercept form equation and change it to standard form. And then you would think, oh yeah, standard form had capital letters to remind us that we don't want fractions. So you'd have to multiply everything by 2, right? And then you'd have to move your X to the other side, so you could have AX plus BY equals capital C on the right side. But my point here that I'm trying to make is, form is just the organization. So if I say slope-intercept form, it's to organize it like this. If I say standard form, it's organize it with the AX and the BY on the left and the number on the right. And today, we're actually going to learn a third form. A third form. It's point slope form. Okay? So let me hand out these half sheet of notes. And I apologize for the audio difference. So on this half sheet of notes, it has the 3 different forms that we need to know up until this point. Like I said, we already know slope-intercept, y equals mx plus b. If they ask you to write an equation in slope-intercept form, you only need 2 things, the m and the b, okay? Standard form, we already know it's great for finding x-intercepts and y-intercepts. Not only that, we know that it's organized with the x's and the y's on the left side, no fractions, no decimals, and the number all by itself on the right side. So we're familiar with both of these, and we're introducing today point-slope form, okay? So point-slope form is awesome. I love it. And you guys are probably going to be like, why didn't you show this earlier to us? First of all, let's look at slope-intercept. Why do we call it slope-intercept?
Because it intercepts the slope.
Because you could see the slope and you could see the y-intercept, right? And you need 2 things to write your slope-intercept form equation. You need a slope and you need an intercept. Let's jump over here to point-slope form. Why do you think they call it point-slope form? Because if it's in this form, you could see a point and you could see a slope. Now, where's the point at? Look, x1, y1. We know x1, y1. Where does that come from? It comes from a coordinate, right?
Yeah.
So x1, y1 is a point. You could see it. It's kind of tricky because you got to think opposite because of the minus signs. But this is x1, y1. That's a coordinate. That's a point. And that's where the word point comes from. And how about slope? Well, you could also see the slope. The slope is out here right in front of the parenthesis. So if it looks like this, if it looks like y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1, you could actually see the point right here, and you could see the slope right here. So that's why they call it point-slope form. Kind of like slope-intercept. Why do they call it slope-intercept? Because you could see the slope and you could see the y-intercept. Over here, point-slope, they call it point-slope because you could see the point right here, x1, y1, and you could see the slope. That's why they call it point-slope form. Remember, the word form is just the way the equation is organized. And I know you guys are probably thinking, man, I don't want to learn a 3rd form. Why can't we just stay with slope, intercept, and standard? Check this out. Let's go back to the question that we just did right now. Move this out of the way. We just did this question right here, and it took us a long time. I mean, think about it. They asked us to write the slope-intercept form equation, so you need an m and you need a b. We just did all this work. It took a long time. What if they just said write any equation given this information? And you already know point-slope form. What are they giving us? They're giving us a point and they're giving us a slope. So if you know point-slope form, you could just jump right into point-slope form and write the equation of number 6. Let me show you. First of all, point-slope form, we're going to have to memorize it. It's y minus y1 equals m, which is slope, parenthesis, x minus x1. Whoa, let me put that in black. That's point-slope form. So they give us, and let me label the coordinate in red. They give us the x1, y1. So once again, if they give you a point and a slope, the easiest equation to write is in point-slope form. Check it out. I want to take this 1. Where am I going to put the 1 at? I want to put the 1 right here where it says x1. Where am I going to put the negative 5 at? I want to put the negative 5 right here where it says y1. And then I want to take this m and I'm going to put the negative 3/2 right here where the m's at. It's that easy, guys. Let's do that. Y minus y1 is negative 5 equals m, which is negative 3/2, parenthesis, x minus x1, which is 1. And if they just said write any equation, we'd be done. Because that is the equation in point-slope form. The only other thing you could do to make it look nicer is change the minus minus to plus plus right there. But this is an equation in point-slope form. So you could actually write the equation without doing any math. Okay, now if they give you a m and a b, then it's easy to do slope-intercept form. But if they give you a m and a point, then it's really easy to do point-slope form. So, and I know you're thinking, well, what if they want it in slope-intercept form? This is not in slope-intercept form. You could still use this method. I mean, because we didn't do any math right there. We just plugged in the point, x1, y1, and then we plugged in the slope right here. Now, if you want it in slope-intercept form, you could modify it. You could change the way it looks. Check it out. I am going to distribute -3/2 times x. That'll be -3/2 x times a -1. That's going to be a +3/2. And then I have an equal sign, and I have y plus 5 on this side. And now if I want the y by itself, I could temporarily get rid of all fractions at once by multiplying everything by 2. Would you guys like to do that? Yep. Okay, so let's multiply everything by 2. Times 2, times 2, times 2, times 2, cancel, cancel. 2y plus 10 equals -3x plus 3. Now let's continue to solve for y if we want to write it in slope-intercept form. -10, -10. You're going to have 2y equals -3x minus 7. Final step would be to do what? Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get the same exact equation that we did before. Y equals -3/2 x minus 7/2. That's your slope-intercept form equation. Again, right here, I'm just messing with equations. I'm changing the way they look. And I'm proving to you that you could use, it's beneficial to memorize this method or this form that's called point-slope form. Okay, so our original question that we did, we got the equation y equals -3/2 x minus 7/2, or we plugged it all in the point-slope form. If they would say write it in any form, then this is a good enough answer. But you could also use this method to modify it and then get the same equation, y equals -3/2 x minus 7. So we will be responsible for having to take any equation. I'm going to give you any equation. It might not be in any of the forms. I could give you something like 3x minus 5 equals 2y. I could give you that equation, and I could tell you write it in all 3 different forms. You'd have to change it to slope-intercept. You have to change it to standard form. You have to change it to point-slope, right? So you're going to have to be responsible for memorizing all 3 forms, being able to change any equation to any of these 3 forms. So on this worksheet, section 4.3, we are responsible for knowing all 3 forms. Slope-intercept, standard, and point-slope. You need to know all 3 forms. So if obviously we just got introduced to point-slope. You need to memorize it. I highlighted the x1 and y1 in red so you could remember that that's a coordinate. I'm also going to highlight the m in blue because that's your slope, just like always, your rise over run. So anyway, let's look at the worksheet. It says to write it in point-slope form. So number 1, they want you to write it in point-slope form. Let's first write down what point-slope form is. So this is the setup, guys. Your m is always going to be in front of the parenthesis. Your y1 and your x1 is always going to be with the letter itself. So it's going to be y minus y1 and x minus x1. And if you think about it, it's kind of like y equals mx plus b. You have y's on this side equals m, and then x's, but there is no plus b. Okay, so before, when I say write it in slope-intercept form, you need a m, you need a b, because that's slope and that's the intercept. In this case, they want point-slope form. What are the 2 things that we need here? You need a point, and you need a slope. So if you know those 2 things, we're good to go. Do we know a point? Yeah, they give you this point right here, -1, -2. So that is the coordinate they want you to use, -1, -2. And the slope, they actually give you, it says right here, the slope is 3. Of course, you could count, from here up to here, what do? I rise up 1, 2, 3 over 1. So yeah, the slope is 3. So now you know your point and now you know your slope. You could just plug it all into point-slope form and you're done. So it's going to be y minus what? Y minus, what is y1?
-2.
negative 2 equals
3.
m, which is 3, parenthesis, x minus x1, negative 1, close parenthesis, and you're done. Actually, the only other thing you could do is this. Change the minus minus to plus plus, and that's it. That's your answer. Y plus 2 equals 3, parenthesis, x plus 1. You're done. You don't have to do anything. Now, the only reason you would do anything is if I asked you, okay, now change it to slope-intercept, or now change it to standard, right? So right here, they're just saying write a point-slope form equation. That's your point-slope form equation. You see, it's easy. You guys want to try another? How about let's jump down to here. Let's not even look at the graph. Let's do number 7. Super easy, guys. Let's write down the two things that we need. In this case, we need a slope, and it's not the y-intercept. We need a point, and a point is a coordinate, okay? So they actually give us the point and the slope. All we need to do is plug it into our form. So there's our point-slope form equation, and all we need to do is plug in our values. So our x1 and y1 come from the x and y right here on this coordinate, 4 and negative 6. The m value is obviously 1. So let's plug it all in. Y minus negative 6 equals m, which is 1, parenthesis, x minus 4. Close parenthesis. And we are done. The only other thing we could do is change the minus minus to plus plus. So the final answer for number 7 is y plus 6 equals 1, parenthesis, x minus 4. That's your point-slope form equation. Now look at this next section though. I mean, should we do more of those, or what do you guys think?
Yeah.
One more? One more. Let's do pick one. 9.
12.
Okay, that's the next section. So let's do 9 and then we'll move on to the next section. So right here, I have x1, y1. Or I could just leave it as xy, but yeah, it's x1, y1 according to the form, the point-slope form. Here's our m value, and here's my point-slope form. Notice that I left the blank spots. This is for my y1 value. y1 is negative 1. It goes right there. So I would always start out the point-slope form by doing y minus blank spot equals blank spot parentheses x minus blank spot. That way you could plug in your, because this is a y1, this is your m, and this is your x1 over here. So once again, start with this, and then plug in your values. y1 is negative 1, m is negative 5/4, x is negative 5. Just change the minus minuses to plus plus, and you're done. Your point-slope form equation is y plus 1 equals negative 5/4, parenthesis, x plus 5. And that's all you have to do. Now, if you look at the next section, I mean, that's your answer. If you, by the way, the answers are not on the back of your worksheet. The printer didn't print, but I do have them posted on the wall. I'll post them also on Edmodo. Now the next section, it says right here, write each equation in standard form. Standard form. And what is standard form? It's capital AX plus capital BY equals capital C. That's to help you remember that you don't want fractions, you don't want decimals. So let's look at number 10 right here. That's really easy to do. All you have to do is move the x over to the other side. And you're going to have negative x plus y plus 1 equals 2. And of course, you want the numbers on the right side. So I want to subtract 1, and I'll have negative x plus y equals 1. Now the question is, sometimes multiple choices, they change the a value to be positive 1. I don't know, check the back of the, actually there is no answers. Can somebody check the wall over there? Number 10, do they write it as negative x plus y equals 1, or do they change it to x minus y equals negative 1? Either one of those is acceptable. Okay, so yeah, we just verified that the answer that the book provides, they want the a value being positive, so they changed all the signs, so they wrote it as x minus y equals negative 1. That's important to know because on the final exam, they're probably going to make that a value be positive. So number 10, it's just changing in standard form. This last part is changing into slope-intercept form. So whatever form they give you, you need to change it to slope-intercept form, kind of like this. Distribute 6, you'll have 6x minus 6 equals y minus 3. And if you want it in slope-intercept form, which is what they're asking for, you go plus 3, you'll have y equals 6x minus 3, and that is your slope-intercept form equation. So we need to be familiar with all three forms, and once we're familiar with all three forms, we will be able to answer all these questions.